as volatile as crypto is, especially in bear markets, in this video, I want to lay out my foolproof, fail-proof, whatever you want to call it, plan to bear market accumulation. And I'm going to go into specifics in this video about my approach right now as we bottom out somewhere. Even if we go lower, I'm going to go over specifics of what my plan is in terms of altcoin accumulation. And I'm also going to explain why I think my strategy that I'm going to show you is a fail-proof method. And it's really not rocket science at all, everybody. And maybe it'll click for you once we get into it. Before we do, just to kind of lay some context, I want to just start with this. At the end of the day, we are in between a rock and a hard place as crypto holders. This is a headline from today. Wall Street tanks again as recession fears mount. There's still a lot of pain potentially ahead. And while we could be getting closer to the end of this, at least from a market perspective, not so much an economy perspective, 2023 could be marked as the true recession as far as headlines define it. But as far as the market goes, I think we could be getting closer, but right now there's still room to the downside. The reason why we're in between a rock and a hard place is because based on previous cycles, on-chain metrics, as far as Bitcoin goes, starting to be very bullish, starting to kind of provide a reflection of previous bear markets where Bitcoin has bottomed. So the question is on everybody's mind at any given time, is the bottom in? And people trying to make their decisions from a macro perspective on that question alone. Number one, I think that is the biggest mistake in terms of altcoin accumulation. I'm going to tell you why. But these Bitcoin on-chain metrics really do lay out some bullish data. SLRV ribbons flash a buy signal. BTC price slips under its global electrical cost. BTC miner selling hits a peak. And these are all things that have happened in previous macro lows. Bitcoin hash ribbons confirm another minor capitulation. All-time high Bitcoin hodling despite a historic price drawdown. So you see all of these bullish on-chain metrics playing out once again in this bear market, but we're in between that rock and a hard place because we have traditional markets, equity markets. Right now, you look at an S&P 500 chart, it's kind of like, I don't know if this is signaling a macro bottom. If anything, we've been tracking this lower high resistance on this chart, and this is S&P 500 once again, and we're seeing a lower high resistance right now. And if this plays out and markets are ready to fall one more time maybe, going into early next year, crypto likely gonna follow that move. So how in the world can we even sit here and just plan? How can we even have a sound plan in an environment like that? And I want to lay that out for you right now. So for context to the charts, this is Bitcoin. This is a Bitcoin chart. This is actually charted back to until the bottom in 2018 there. You see there's no future data, everything that has happened in this last bull market that we have there. It's not charted on this chart when I charted this chart, but this is the roadmap. And again, I don't care if you have Bitcoin or not. It's a roadmap. It's my roadmap, and this is how I see these charts. I'm using Bitcoin as a roadmap for my altcoins. So this is really the altcoin roadmap, and reason being, I say it all the time, Bitcoin has the most data. It has the cycle data on it. So what we see Bitcoin doing is just such a nice foundation to what likely the rest of the crypto markets are doing. Now, this is 2018, I charted it, right? And the reason I'm showing this real quick is just to show you the chart that we're using so far for me has been extremely reliable. Take note of these yellow lines. You can see back here in 2015, the bear market low below that yellow line. It's a macro 786 line, a macro retracement line. Bitcoin bottomed below it. The last 2018 bear market, Bitcoin bottomed below it, and we were anticipating escaping the bear market, which you see, and all the way back down to a macro 786. We're waiting for Bitcoin to bottom below that yellow line. And if we go to the chart now and we look what it looks like, this is how it's transpired. Leaving 2018 bear market, up into the bull market, back down below the line. And we're below the line most recently right now on a weekly zoomed in chart. This is what it looks like. We've fallen into the bear market. And right now we're below the lower line. So for this video, I want to just give you a couple of examples of a couple altcoins that I like and my approach to those altcoins. And we're going to discuss from my perspective why I think my strategy here that I'm using is fail-proof. So let's just start with the Bitcoin chart because this is the roadmap once again. So what has happened is this. We've fallen below the 786 line. For me, it's a bottom range signal. That's all it means for me. It doesn't tell me the bottom is 100% in. In fact, we've already identified if Bitcoin actually repeats itself on this chart, Bitcoin could fall 35% below the 786 line, hitting around $11,000 to $12,000. So this is the plan that I've come up with for myself. And that is these three ranges within this macro range. Now, anything could happen, and this range might not play out at all, and Bitcoin could fall even lower, right? We know that, and that's part of what we anticipate is just the unknown, and also worst case scenarios, these terrible things that could happen that we wouldn't even think of, right? So we're aware of that, but we're assuming that Bitcoin does bottom somewhere in this range below the 786 line down to around 11,000, and this is where my plan starts. We've fallen into this first range. This first range for me, as many people are calling the bottom, at the same time, many people saying $5,000 Bitcoin, this first range for me is kind of, it's not an urgent accumulation area as far as altcoins go, but it's an accumulation area where I'm kind of like, when I'm feeling a little comfortable to pick up some altcoins, then I'm going to pick up some altcoins. And just for reference, we have ADA chart, and this is what the ADA chart is looking like right now in this bear market as Bitcoin is in that first layer of that accumulation range for me. And this is a Matic chart. I wanted to use a Matic chart because Matic is an altcoin that I kind of wish I had a little bit more of, and it's something I'm keen on accumulating more of right now. So I have my eyes on Matic. Now, what I want to just show you right now, as Bitcoin is doing its thing and we're evaluating these layers of accumulation, I'm going to talk about that red layer next. Matic right now, I want to introduce other indicators, other parts of the story, in particular parts of that particular altcoin, right? So for instance, Matic has this swing low to swing high, and right now there's this retracement potentially in play where Matic could go down to around 52 cents at the 786 line. And the reason why that's important for me, if you look at Matic right now, where it is to that 786 line, we're looking at around 42% fall. If we go back to the Bitcoin chart, I want to always see, does that play into the story of Bitcoin as well? And how closely correlated is the story? So for Matic, it was 40, a little over 40% fall. For Bitcoin to fall to the lower end of the range, around 35%. So both falls realistic from all these charting perspectives. One thing I do want to note, if you look at Matic right now in this bear market against Bitcoin, this is a BTC Matic chart. Look at Matic holding strong through this bear market. One thing I'm also noting from an indicator perspective is this. We have these lower highs on the RSI, this slower moving momentum oscillator. So that could be a bit of, divergence there, bearish divergence, showing some slowing down of Matic. There could be a fall. And so if that were to happen on the Matic chart, Matic could very well hit that 42% to the downside range, even if Bitcoin's not falling that much. So that's Matic, and it's a good example of, using all indicators on altcoin charts along with the actual roadmap, which is here. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking, okay, well, how is this fail-proof? I mean, you're speculating that Bitcoin might fall, into these ranges, and you're apparently accumulating at these ranges, right? So I want to discuss that now. This is the first range. And for me, I've discussed, from my perspective, I'm kind of just buying when I'm feeling like buying. It's really that simple for me. Now, there becomes urgency when Bitcoin falls into this range. So for Bitcoin from where it is right now, to fall into that range is like around 11 to 12%, all the way down to the end of that range, around 23%. So that next dip, if it happens, let's just call it 10 to 20%, the urgency for me gets a lot stronger. Now, this is why it's fail-proof. And many of you might not like this answer at all, but it really is the only way for anything in crypto to be fail-proof. You look at the speculation here. I'm saying, if Bitcoin does this, if this happens, we can say if Bitcoin never even falls down to these ranges and Bitcoin actually exits the bear market and never comes down again. There's all of these ifs. This is where it's fail-proof, everybody. Right now, in the current state of crypto, where there's all of these if scenarios, Bitcoin could fall 10 to 20% into my next heavy accumulation area, or even further down where I'm buying altcoins even heavier if it goes 30, 40% down. Here's the thing. If it doesn't happen, I'm okay with that. And I will not feel distraught to the sense of I completely am out of the game now. So, and this is at the end of the day, this is what I would say is the fail-safe approach to crypto. And this is why I cover the charts. And it's why all the time in my videos, I say I don't know what's going to happen next. Because the key is to anticipate, well, if we got the upside, right? The most bullish, positive, just direction for crypto, or if we got just the worst case scenario, the key is this, and it's so obvious people don't want to realize. The key is right now in the current state of things, with these two possibilities in play, are you comfortable? Are you okay with your position? That's what I ask myself. I say, am I okay right now if we enter a bull market tomorrow? I say, am I okay right now if crypto fails and it's banned forever and it goes to zero? And if I can sit here right now, even in such an environment where we're at a key 786 macro kind of resistance now, and the markets are showing bullishness, but at the same time, bearishness, and nobody truly has any idea what's going to happen next, I can sit here and I can say, I'm okay. My plan right now for me is having me sit here comfortable. That's the fail-proof method. Now, you notice though, it's just not all mental. It's not all me sitting here and saying, that's my only approach, I'm just comfortable. I really have a method here in this bear market, and it really is my plan. It might not sit well with you, but this is how I see things. This is how I'm doing things. This isn't how I'm telling you to do things. This is how I am approaching these markets right now in a way where I'm comfortable. And what it is maybe some altcoin accumulation here, putting some fiat. If we fall here, and then the calls for $5,000 Bitcoin get even stronger, and we're talking 15,000 down to 13,000. If we fall there and people are getting really fearful and S&P 500 maybe getting ready to capitulate or do something crazy, if we fall into that range, for me, I'm going heavier in altcoins. At least right now, that's my plan. And then if we really start capitulating down towards $10,000, $11,000, we're falling into this blue range even, 12,000 for me, and it will probably be uncomfortable if this happens. And there's no guarantee it's going to happen. We know that. But if we're falling and it's fear everywhere, it's probably uncomfortable to buy there. I've noticed that all across the board. Every time that things are capitulating, it usually is the most difficult to buy. But in my mind, I know historically it's the best time. Now, here's the biggest struggle in terms of this plan. There's no guarantee Bitcoin falls into any of these ranges. And many of you might be thinking that, man, what's the difference? Just maybe for some of you, it's like, I'm just going to accumulate here because what's the difference if it falls down to 14,000? I don't want to miss the boat here if it doesn't happen. But for me, here's probably the most challenging thing about my plan that I have to face. And it's this: the volatility and the patience along the way that is required for this to even happen, because it might not happen tomorrow or this week or next week. We could have a pump to the upside. We could test these ranges to the upside we've been discussing, namely this key line, which is a lower trend line of this triangle. Bitcoin to test that area is so much in play up in that $18,000 area. So Bitcoin could very much see a pump of 8% or so, and people are getting bullish. And I'm kind of like sitting here, man, Bitcoin didn't fall into any of my kind of heavier accumulation areas as far as altcoins go. And so that volatility that's there and the emotionality that could seep in if I'm not paying attention and just keeping my head in the game, it's very real, right? So meaning we could get a move to the upside. We could break that trend line, and then maybe there's more resistance at the 200-day moving average. And finally at 20,000, there's resistance. And then going into the new year, Bitcoin's finally falling and less capitulation. The journey to these accumulation areas could be a while, is what I'm saying. And so that's probably the biggest challenge for me, potential breakouts to the upside, because there is always that bullishness that enters markets when we get the moves like that. So, but at the same time, I will sit here and say, if Bitcoin did that and actually never even came back down, I am okay with my position. And that's my fail-proof strategy, everybody. Is I sit here, I've been on YouTube doing these videos for around 5 years, and it is the one thing. We speculate all the time. The charts, they end up just playing out how we speculate so often. It's insane. But that's not how I think I've been successful in crypto. I think success comes from just being prepared for every scenario and making wise, sound, patient decisions and not having emotion rule the decision making. And so that's what we're doing here. And this is my strategy. This entire range really is an illustration of my strategy, truly. But the true strategy, the fail-safe strategy for me that works and has worked over the years is don't get emotional and be comfortable at any given time. Just if I'm comfortable at any given time with my portfolio, no matter what crypto does next, I'm relaxing and I'm ready for what is about to be thrown at us, because we know that it's a very, very crazy volatile roller coaster ride. So those are my thoughts, everybody. Let me know your thoughts about this strategy. Let me know if you're using Bitcoin as a roadmap as well. I always wonder that if you understand kind of, or if you're seeing what I'm seeing as far as Bitcoin goes, maybe not so much for Bitcoin accumulation, but the Bitcoin chart acting as a roadmap for altcoin accumulation, Cardano, Polygon Matic, right? So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I appreciate you. Hit the like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next video. God bless.